Have you ever made a business mistake so big that it completely obliterated your confidence and left you wondering if you should just close up shop, get on your hands and knees, and beg for your old job back? Today, I'm going to share with you 5 of my most excruciating business mistakes, including one that wiped out a multi-six-figure revenue stream overnight, along with the valuable, universally applicable lessons that they taught me and that you can learn from too. And hopefully, even though you will make mistakes of your own, you can avoid these painful and expensive ones. Lesson number 1, focus on the right things at the right time. Now, this was the very first lesson that I had to learn the hard way when first starting out in online business. I was an art director working in advertising at the time, and I wanted to start a side hustle so that I could eventually leave my job and work full-time on a business of my own. Now, my very first idea was a gluten-free meal planning service. So this was back when the gluten-free trend was first kicking off, and I thought it would be a good trend to cash in on. I named the business Easylicious Gluten-Free, and the idea behind it was that it would be a subscription service where customers would receive weekly meal plans along with grocery lists. Now, without doing any market research, I didn't even talk to a single gluten-free person. I got really excited and I went full steam ahead creating a website, designing a logo, color palette, writing blog posts, creating several weeks worth of meal plans and grocery lists. I registered a legal entity, the whole 9 yards. I did absolutely everything except for the one thing I should have done first, which is find out if anyone actually wanted this thing. And I didn't realize my mistake until all of those things were done and it was time to launch. And suddenly I realized I have no idea how to market this thing. I have no idea if anyone even wants this thing. And I have absolutely no real interest in gluten-free anything. All I was doing was trying to cash in on a trend. Now, after those realizations, I just gave up and I went back to the drawing board. But by that time, I had already wasted about 6 months of my time working evenings and weekends around my full-time job, and I'd also wasted about $500 registering the business. Now, I could have avoided this failure if I had focused on the right things and the right time. Websites, logos, brand colors, registering your business, these are all legitimate to-dos, but I was doing them at the wrong time. My first order of business should have been validating my idea with proper market research and talking to real people in my target market before steamrolling straight ahead into this long list of time-consuming tasks that actually prevented me from making any real progress. Now, this is a really common mistake, jumping straight into the tactical without having a concrete plan. And most of us do it because, we just get so excited about our idea and we don't actually know what to do. So we just start attacking the things that we think we need to do in order to run a business. Now, another important takeaway here is that it's really important to have a real interest in your idea. Money's a strong motivator, obviously, but it's probably not going to be enough for long-term sustainability. Even if Easylicious had succeeded, I know it only would have been a matter of time before I got bored with it and I started questioning why I was even doing it to begin with. If I'd been planning for the long term rather than thinking about short-term gains, I would not have pursued that idea to begin with. Like Benjamin Franklin said, if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. Now, if you want to avoid this particular mistake, you can download my free First Customers Fast checklist, which guides you through the 7 crucial tasks that you need to focus on in your very first week of online business. If you do these 7 things, you're not going to waste months and potentially hundreds of dollars like I did on a business that flops before you even get your first customer. You can find the link to that down in the description below. Next lesson, hire the right person for the job. I think most of us are going to make the mistake of hiring the wrong person at some point in our careers. And unfortunately, I've made this mistake more than once. And my most expensive mistakes in this particular area came from hiring the wrong business coaches. Now, when you first start a business, at some point you're going to need an experienced person that you can talk to and get help from when it comes to your business challenges. Now, even if you've got formal business training, nobody does this alone, and it's incredibly valuable to have someone that you can go to ask for guidance. And oftentimes that guidance comes in the form of a business coach. Now, when I was very new to online business, I signed up for a free coaching session with someone who works for a very well-known self-help personality. And this free session, of course, turned into a sales pitch. And Even though I couldn't afford it, I allowed myself to be talked into putting a $6,000 coaching package onto my credit card. Now, encouraging me to go into debt to buy this coaching package, on top of pressuring me to make that payment right then and there on the phone, should have been a red flag, but I trusted the organization, I needed help, and so I went along with it. And I do take full ownership of that decision that I made. At the end of the day, that decision was mine and I just made the wrong one. Now, the coach that I was ultimately matched with was a very kind, very supportive person, but what I soon came to realize was that because she had no direct experience running a business, she really couldn't help me with any of the business challenges that I needed help with. She felt a lot more like a life coach than a business coach, which just wasn't what I needed. So ultimately, after our 12-week engagement, the whole thing really just felt like a big waste of money. A few years later, I made the same mistake again. This time, I signed up for a 6-month engagement with a business coach who works inside one of my favorite online mentors coaching programs. Now, I really loved this coach. She was fantastic. She was super successful. This time, she did run her own 7-figure business, so she had a couple of decades of real business experience. But her business was not an online business, and it was in finance. So even though she was able to give me lots of really incredible general business advice, I still wasn't getting the exact type of help that I needed. So the next time I sought out a business coach, I wrote a list of the exact things I needed help with, along with the experience and skill sets that I wanted from a business coach. Now, it's pretty surprising how many of us don't do this pretty basic step. And of course, it seems pretty freaking obvious. And what I wanted was a coach who had at least 10 years of experience running a successful online business, and who had proven case studies of helping online entrepreneurs scale their businesses from 6 to 7 figures. Now, see what a huge difference it makes knowing who exactly you're looking for, from I need a business coach to I'm looking for a business coach with 10 years of experience running a successful online business and direct experience helping 6-figure entrepreneurs scale to 7 figures. That difference is going to show up in your results, taking them from mediocre to mind-blowing. A good rule of thumb that applies to any service provider you're considering is to never hire someone who hasn't succeeded at the thing that you are there to get help with. You wouldn't hire a financial advisor who is broke. You wouldn't hire a love coach who's been divorced 3 times. You wouldn't hire a personal trainer who doesn't exercise or eat right. Don't hire a business coach who's never run a successful business. And remember, coaching is an unregulated industry, so extra due diligence is required. And a bonus lesson, because you're gonna encounter this a lot in the coaching space and even just in the online space in general, don't let yourself get pressured into buying high-ticket offers right on the spot. The more expensive the offer, the more time you need to take to think about it. If the person you're considering hiring tries to dissuade you from taking that time, this is a huge red flag, and it's a deliberate attempt to circumvent your critical thinking. Now, you do need to invest in yourself and your business in order to learn and grow, but take the time to find the right teachers. And this goes for hiring anyone, not just coaches. And we'll get into a few more of those hiring mistakes in just a few minutes. Next lesson, hire slow and fire fast. Very closely related to the last lesson. Now, doing the opposite of this, hiring fast and firing slow, is another mistake that I think a lot of new business owners make, because it turns out it's actually a lot harder to find great help than you might initially think. And most of us wait way too long to make those first hires because of all sorts of reasons, like we feel like we can't afford it, we don't want to give up control, we don't think that someone else is going to be able to do as good of a job as we do. And so by the time we do start looking for help, a lot of times we're already desperate because we've exceeded our capacity and we're on the brink of burnout. Now, this was me when looking for one of my first hires. I reviewed some of this person's work, I had a short interview with them, I liked them, and then I hired them without talking to anyone else. And I didn't give them a test task so that I could see the quality of their work when working on my tasks. And the result was that I had to spend a lot of time providing this person with feedback. Their deliverables were not up to my standards, And they didn't seem interested in acquiring the skills that they needed to get their work up to that level that I needed. And I made excuses for all of this because I knew they were going through a hard time personally, so I didn't want to let them go on top of all these other things that they were going through at home. And I was dreading having to find a replacement when I was already stretched so thin. Finally, I had to let this person go, and when I hired the next person, I made sure that I did two things. First of all, again, I made a list of the exact skills and experience that I was looking for. Then I interviewed multiple candidates to check for fit. Then I had my top candidates do a short test task to see the quality of their work. Now, this process, of course, took longer, but it ensured that my chances of finding the right person were much greater. So hire slowly, but do it before you're desperate for that help so that you don't make a rash decision that could cost you lots of time down the road. And if that person doesn't work out, don't make excuses for them while putting up with poor work for months on end. As soon as it's apparent that the person isn't up to the job, it's time to find a replacement. Next lesson, play by the rules. This is my most painful mistake, and it's the one that cost me a multi-six-figure income stream overnight and totally turned my life upside down for months afterward. So after my Easylicious gluten-free flop many years ago, I started publishing fiction and nonfiction books under various pen names on Amazon's Kindle Direct publishing platform, or KDP. Then, after a couple of years, I started publishing journals, and planners, and other what's called low-content books under different brand names on a different platform called CreateSpace. And the reason I published them on different platforms was so that I could maintain some separation between these two income streams. One day, I got an email from KDP telling me that their terms had been updated, and several of my fiction books did not comply with the new terms. And I had 5 days to make proper updates, or my account was going to be terminated. No problem. Except that because I decided to take a few months off to be with my new baby, and I wasn't checking my emails regularly, by the time I saw that email, I had about 2 days to make the changes, not 5. So I had to hustle, but I got it done, or at least I thought I did. A week after that, I got a notice telling me that I still had one book that wasn't compliant, so they shut down my account. In my haste, I had somehow missed that one book. Then came the really bad news. Amazon had recently announced that it had acquired CreateSpace, and it was going to be merging the CreateSpace platform with KDP. So shortly after that, I got another email telling me that because my KDP account had been terminated, they were also shutting down my CreateSpace account, which is where all of my major earnings were coming from. And this news came not long after my mother had suddenly died unexpectedly, totally out of nowhere. So I was grieving for my mom's death. I had a new-ish baby in the house, and my income stream, my only income stream, had been completely wiped out overnight. And guess what? I could have prevented that whole thing from happening if I had only created a proper plan for myself when I decided I was going to take 6 months off after having my baby. My business was directly tied to Amazon. I should have created a plan to at least check in on things once or twice a week. Amazon's terms are updated often. They're easily accessible. I should have been paying attention. Amazon didn't know I was planning on taking 6 months off, not that they would have cared. But it was my responsibility to make sure that I had a plan in place and that I was continuing to play by the rules even in my absence. It wasn't fun having to rebuild that income after that setback, but it taught me a lot about planning, accountability, knowing the rules and adhering to them to a T. And you want to do all those things in your business as well. Is your website compliant? Are your emails compliant? Is your tax reporting compliant? Are the products that you're selling on third-party platforms compliant? Not knowing the rules is not an excuse for non-compliance either. No one's going to care if you say, well, I didn't know I had to do that. You've got to learn the rules, play by them, and always make sure everything you do is above board. And when you plan to take extended breaks from your business, which is one of the great things about running our own businesses, we get to decide when we work and how much we work and when we take breaks and all those great things. But we need to make sure we've got a plan in place for when we're gone so that we're still playing by the rules even in our absence. Now, no matter what business you get involved with or create, there's always going to be risks. Even if your income stream isn't tied to a third-party platform like Amazon, There's a whole slew of other risks that you're going to need to contend with and be comfortable with. It just comes with the territory. But you can and should mitigate those risks through careful planning and ensure that you're always compliant with the law, as well as the terms of service of any of the platforms that you deal with. Final lesson, stay on top of your financials. This final lesson was another very expensive one for me that ended up costing me probably in the neighborhood of $10,000, if not more. Now, in this scenario, I kept another team member on long after I should have let them go as well, but for totally different reasons. Really like this person. They did a fantastic job, but my business needs just evolved over time, and many of the services that they were performing, I just didn't need anymore. And I didn't respond to those shifting needs as quickly as I should have, mainly because I wasn't paying close attention to my budgets. Now, I'd hired the person at a time when my business was absolutely booming, and because business was booming and incredible amounts of money were coming in each and every month, with almost no money going out, I wasn't even creating proper budgets at that time. Then there came a time when my expenses started to balloon, my revenue dipped, profits were down, and I had to start taking some cost-cutting measures. Now, I knew that my newly created budgets, when I finally got on top of it, just couldn't sustain having this person on any longer, especially because the services that they were providing no longer fit my immediate needs. And so at that point, I knew I had to let them go. But this was something that I should have done months earlier. And had I been properly creating and paying attention to my budgets, I would have done that, saving myself in the neighborhood of $10,000. Now today, I have systematized all of my financial tasks, and they're now my top priority. Budgets, cash flow, P&L, which is profit and loss. Get intimate with these numbers. Always know your position. And that way, you can always make the best decisions for your business health at the right time. And do it from the start, even when you're not making much money yet. Now, there's a lot of us who grew up without a lot of money and haven't had money for most of our lives, have this really nasty habit of burying our heads in the sand when it comes to finances, because we've spent so much time not wanting to face the reality that we're broke. We just don't even want to know. I had to break this habit myself, so I get that. But remember, what gets measured gets managed. That's how you can create real financial health in both your business and your life. Now, most of these big mistakes are common ones that a lot of newbies make, mostly out of acting on impulse or out of desperation or just out of a place of just simply not having the right knowledge at the right time. And while you're still guaranteed to make mistakes of your own, hopefully now you can at least avoid making these particular ones. And if you're starting a new online business and you want a checklist of those 7 crucial tasks that you need to focus on in your first week of online business so that you don't waste months and potentially hundreds of dollars like I did on a bad idea, then download my free First Customers Fast checklist from the description below. And for a video walkthrough of all of those steps, watch what to focus on the first week of starting an online business right here. But before you do, give this video a like and make sure to subscribe if you'd like to see more videos just like this one. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.